Now, cast your minds back to this day in 2009. Barack Obama had been in his job for just a few weeks. Slumdog Millionaire had just won Best Pictures at the Oscars, and the iPad hadn't even been invented. It was also the day that the Bank of England took some very drastic action of cutting interest rates to just 0.5%. That is the lowest level ever. It was all part of the plan to rescue Britain's failing economy. So, 5 years on, how's it worked, and when will interest rates rise again? And more importantly, what does it mean for all our finances? Well, the ladies with all the answers is financial expert Louise Cooper. Good to see you on the programme tonight, Louise. So take us back 5 years and just explain to me how unprecedented it was to go from, 5% to 0.5% in just 5 months in terms of interest rate cuts.
Truly extraordinary. But remember, Northern Rock had been nationalised, and sort of £70 billion had been injected into RBS and Lloyds HBOS because both those banks clearly went bust. So it was an extraordinary time, and of course Lehman went bust as well. So it was an extraordinary time.
And we know that housing prices were falling, people were losing their jobs. It was a very, very difficult time. But 5 years on, thankfully, things are an awful lot better in this country. So are you surprised interest rates are still so low?
There are a number of people calling for rates to rise. We do know that interest rates at 0.5% have alleviated some of the problems of a financial crisis.
So has it worked? Has it helped get our economy back on track?
It's partly worked. If you look at housing repossessions, for example, this time round wasn't even as bad as 1991. If you look at the credit crunch in terms of banks not wanting to lend to businesses and individuals, it could have been an awful lot worse. But on the other hand, we've had 5 years of an economy basically flatlining. So interest rates are a measure, but by no means are they the only answer. They are not, the answer to all of our economic problems.
The thing is, for you and I and everyone else watching, they're very important, aren't they? Particularly when they start to rise. Those are big mortgages. So when is that likely to happen? I know that's a $64 million question, but what do you think?
Well, the markets are estimating that the first base rate rise will happen about this time next year, the first quarter or the second quarter of 2015. Now, clearly, we have a general election in May of 2015. And if you put me on the spot, I would suggest it would be just before the general election as a sort of sop to Tory voters who tend to be savers, because, of course, savers have been so badly damaged by the 0.5% base rate.
They've lost as much as £65 billion, haven't they, in terms of not being able to get money from better interest rates on their savings accounts. It's extraordinary, isn't it?
Well, that's one estimate. The campaign group Save Our Savers puts it at double that level, at £117 billion lost to savers.
But for every saver, there's someone who's got a big mortgage. It's been great for them, but there's also been a generation of people who don't know any other rate, do they?
Yes.
And this is going to be the difficult thing, isn't it? Getting our houses in order so we can cope with higher interest rates.
Well, what's really interesting is for anybody on a tracker mortgage, it's been a joy. It's a license to spend money, because effectively when inflation was at sort of 4 to 5%, and those on tracker mortgages have been paying what we call negative real interest rates.
So what do they do now?
And what we mean by that is effectively the bank has paid them to borrow money. I mean, that's how extraordinary it's been. What they do now is there's still some very good fixed rate deals out there, although the Bank of England does say we may raise rates, but it's going to be very slow and very gradual. I wonder about that. I think inflation may be dormant for the time being, but will not always be dormant.
OK, thank you for your advice, Louise. Nice to see you again. Coming up here on NewsTalk Live.